The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tycho, and starting a new enterprise. Al Blumkin and Hal Bock will be doing a bi-weekly show, and from time to time, they'll be joined by other people on the network. David Hubler is indisposed lately, and George Case III is, but we've got to get you guys on a regular basis. So, Alan Blumkin, how are you?
Hanging in there.
Hanging in there. I'd like to know how Hal Bock is. Haven't heard your voice on the network in a while.
I'm fine, Ralph.
Okay, you did do a hockey show for us with George Grimm a couple of weeks ago, which was, as usual, superb. And speaking of hockey, a guy you wrote a book with, it's his anniversary of his death, Rod Joubert. Am I correct?
You're right.
He was a good friend of yours, and you've talked about him in the past, but what was your experience like in writing a book with him?
Oh, he was terrific. He was, sometimes there's a problem with access when you're doing a book with an athlete or with a star. There was never a problem with access with Rod. Rod was always available, and I talked to his parents. I flew up to Montreal, talked to his parents, and we did the book. And he was a wonderful guy, and I miss him dearly.
Yeah, died much too young, incredibly too young. Rod Joubert, New York Rangers. When I was a kid, I got my GO ticket and sat for 75 cents in the upper deck and watched the likes of Rattel and Hatfield, and it was a great way to spend can't have baseball in the wintertime, and but great sports. And as a matter of fact, we talked about Murray Rose, who on our show recently, and Murray Rose would, through Marty, provide me with tickets to the roller derby, everything in sight. The Knicks, because how, correct me if I'm wrong, basically the teams would use the media to paper the crowd. Am I correct?
To do what with the crowd?
Paper, what they call in show business, papering the crowd, letting a lot of people in, GIs and what have you.
Not when I worked for the Rangers. We had a crowd of 15,925 people for every game, and there were very few giveaways. I mean, most of the people paid their way in, and there were tax tickets. That's the ones you're talking about. You paid a tax for the exchange, I think, right? 75 cents or something like that?
Right.
Yeah. But, no, I don't know about the Knicks, but I know about the Rangers. It was an honest count. Those people were there every game.
Tell me about Ned Irish.
You don't want me to start with it. He was a disaster as running the Knicks.
Okay.
We did a podcast. I did a podcast with you early in my career on Nick mistakes.
Oh,
starting with Dolph Shays.
Yeah, $2,000
$2,000, yeah.
Wow. And that went all through he was great all through the 50s and early 60s.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget.
DeWitt Clinton High School, NYU, Jewish, perfect for them, and they let him go to Syracuse, which is another league at that time.
Well, don't forget, Alan and Ralph, I didn't know Ned Irish. I kept to myself. I kept to the hockey department, and I didn't have much to do with Ned Irish. But I do know that Ned Irish was responsible for introducing college basketball to Madison Square Garden, and that was a very big deal. So his time with the Knicks, I don't know. I didn't follow it that much. But,
I did.
But I do know that without Ned Irish, college basketball would not have had a home in Madison Square Garden. So
you're right on that. You're right on that. But you're promoting is one thing. Constructing a team that's competitive and making sound choices. I mean, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah, but promoting, when you say he did the holiday festival, the holiday festival, me too, the NITs, and he did a tremendous job. Thank you for reminding me, Hal, from that respect. But you laid it right on the head. It's the difference between promotion and building a team is astronomical. And to a fan just cares about the building of the team.
Well, sure. A fan
we're the Yankees right now.
Well, you mean the last place Yankees?
Which is amazing. And the worst team money can buy, Division II, New York Mets, it seems. How you've been watching them all year, and David too. Can you critique them? What's wrong? What can be fixed? My feeling is an owner should basically hire a baseball man and step out of the way.
You're talking about two teams here in New York with the two highest payrolls in Major League Baseball. The Mets invested an enormous amount of money. I think 337 million maybe in salaries for this season. The Yankees, $294 million. They're both at the bottom of the standings. And why is that? Well, the Mets invested in two 40-year-old pitchers. And when you get to be 40 years old, I remember when I got to be 40 years old, I slowed down a little bit. And they've slowed down, Verlander and Scherzer. And to the Mets' credit, and I think a lot of people criticized them for it, but they just unloaded them at the trade deadline, and they decided to restock their farm system, which was bereft of any decent products, and they had to restock it. So they traded a bunch of players. They lost a bunch of games when they did that because they just rocked the team, and now they've won 7 of the last 9 games, which is pretty good.
Yep.
I mean, they're still. I think there's still 8 games or so under 500, but at least they're moving in the right direction. The Yankees have been dead men walking for a long time. They're old. They're not very good. It's as simple as that. I mean, they lost Aaron Judge, who was the MVP last season, hit 62 home runs last year. They lost him for a huge chunk of the season. And he's been back for a couple of weeks, but that hasn't straightened them out. They're 6-16 since Judge came back. Their pitching staff is in a shambles. Guys have been hurt. A lot of guys have been hurt. They're in a bad place. I don't think either team is going to make much of an impression this season. The hope is that they can get themselves back together for next year. The Mets, I don't think, will be able to. because they just have to get started. They have to go do over. It's a do-over for the Mets. The Yankees are very much the same. The Yankees have to look at that roster. They have some dead wood on the roster, and they have to get rid of it. They went into this season without a left fielder. They went into this season without a third baseman. And, there's a lot of hits that go down the left field line. So there's a problem. Both teams have problems.
Ralph, as long I put this down on one of the Facebook sites, as long as Cashman is there, it's not going to get any better for the Yankees.
Well, he's going to be there. He just signed a 4-year contract.
I know that, yeah, but that's the Temple of Doom, because the man has totally dependent on analytics, and the analytics don't work. And he's the one that's a friend of mine who goes to a lot of the games told me, well, it's the analytics department. I said, who hires the analytics department? It's Cashman. And they are such they're not a team, they're a conglomeration.
Baseball is brought into analytics throughout both leagues. Every team has an analytics department. How much you invest in the analytics is another matter. I, for one, I'm old school, and I believe in the eye test. I believe in scouts, and I believe in the way baseball has been played for 150 years. Apparently, I'm in the minority here, No,
you're preaching to the choir with me.
I know that, but it's widespread throughout baseball.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have teams like the Braves and the Astros and the Dodgers, among others, that know what the heck they're doing. The Braves let Freeman go. They have Olsen. They let Swanson walk. They got Arcia. The Astros let Correa walk, and they've got Pena. They don't let these guys walk unless they have somebody coming up to replace it. And these teams, know how to do it right. The Yankees, and a lot of the critics say the Yankees' downfall started with the contract that they gave Stanton. Yeah, well, that's a big problem.
Can I tell you
nobody's going to take him off their hands.
Nobody. Who's going to take that contract?
I know. They owe him. They owe him a ton of money.
They have a whole bunch of players that are untradeable.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you my take on analytics, guys. Okay. Their analytics are fine, but they've got to be adjusted day by day depending on the fit and the availability of the players. So one needs a manager or a coaching staff to talk to these players and find out how they are likely to do on that day based on something else other than numbers, how they're feeling, what they're relating to, what muscle pulls they have. Analytics in general, if you go by it, statistics over 162 game season are going to bear out, but not day to day. You have to have human contact with the players on a day-to-day basis, and lineups should be constructed more on that than on analytics, which is just a clue, a tool, and I think it's overused. Will you guys agree?
Yeah, they had a game that was on Sunday between the Astros and the Mariners. There were 15 pitchers in it. 15. The Mariners won the game. They had 8 pitchers in there. Houston had 7.
The Mets had a pitcher. The Mets had a pitcher, pretty good pitcher named Jacob deGrom. But he was kind of like he was a cripple. I mean, he kept getting hurt, and he went into the off season. He was a free agent, so the Mets offered him a contract. and he turned it down. He signed for a lot of money with Texas. And as soon as he signed with Texas, the Mets immediately went out and got a replacement, Justin Verlander, the American League Cy Young Award winner, a guy who's going to the Hall of Fame, right? Terrific idea, right? Well, he broke down before the season started. DeGrom broke down once the season started. And where are we? DeGrom has Tommy John surgery his second time around, and Verlander's been traded. So, you can't predict. It's an unpredictable game, and it's a crapshoot a lot of times.
The Mets have used 34 different pitchers this year so far.
That's all?
Wow.
34, yeah. I counted them up from the paper the other day.
That is
Can you name them all?
New York City guy's response. That's all?
Well, when you hear names that you don't recognize, I keep telling this one friend of mine. He says he can't keep up with all these names and everything. I told him, Stan, I said, don't waste your time trying.
I'm a Mets fan. I think you know that, Ralph. I've rooted for the Mets.
Oh, yeah. And the memory of the Giants.
That's right. Every year, we come to a breaking point for me. A couple of years ago, they had a game where they had a pitcher named Familia, and he walked a guy. The guy, I think he was from the Marlins, stole second, he stole third, and then he stole home. That's not good. A couple of weeks later, they batted out of turn, which is a little league trick. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm off. I'm finished with them for the season. Now, this year, we had a game. I think it was against the Phillies. They gave up 5 runs in the 8th inning on 1 hit. How do you do that? That's not possible. Well, yeah, it is. The Phillies loaded the bases, and we had one of our rag-arm pitchers walk a guy in, walked a run in. Then he hit a batter. That tied the score. Then he hit another batter, and the Phillies went ahead. What? You hit 2 guys in a row? That's no good. Well, the same pitcher. Wait a minute, I'm not done. The same pitcher, I think his name is Walker. The same pitcher, a couple of weeks later, is working on a relief against, I think, Kansas City. And they're having trouble with the electronic signs, which is another feature that I'm not really thrilled with. And he couldn't get the sign, and he balked with a runner on third base. The winning run scored. Yeah. The winning run. I said, that's it. I'm done. So every year I give them a new chance, and every year they seem to come up with some whacked-out way to lose a game that infuriates me, and I just hang it up for the year,
Yeah,
in that case,
my brother was a fanatical Yankee fan, and after they gave up the 5 runs in Miami last week to lose the game in the 9th inning, he said that's it. He can't take any more. I've been watching a little bit of the Little League World Series. They know their fundamentals are better than a lot of the major leaguers.
I know. You're right. Now, why is that? Why do guys get to the major leagues who aren't trained in fundamentals? They used to be.
They don't spend enough time in the minors. And to me, I don't know if you guys feel this way, all the managers in the major league are basically cut from the same cloth. I just think, at times Casey Stengel is rolling over in his grave because of these current Yankees. He wouldn't tolerate lack of fundamentals. All the great managers don't, but a lot of these guys, there's a lot of combinations. Some of them are making money, and they don't, enough money, and they don't care whether they'll get better or not. The typical one is, for me, my poster boy for that is Joey Gallo. And there's a lot, and I don't think Aaron Boone. Some of the decisions they make, just bringing in relief pitchers. A relief pitcher throws 10 pitches in the 7th inning and gets the sign out in order. He's out of the game because the next guy has to come in.
Anybody ever meet Goose Gossage? Goose Gossage used to throw 2-3 innings in relief. Why
so
can't
it's
they do
Forky
that?
Lyle. Yeah. Wally Fingers did that.
They all did it.
They can't, and they have to have their role, quote unquote.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
It's like football. I mean, they have the equivalent of long snappers in Major League relief pitchers. Management.
The way the game is
Julio
changed.
Rodriguez on the Seattle sat out last night's game. They beat the White Sox 14-2. And every time one of these guys, they play 20 games in a row and they have to sit out a game, and I tell my friends, I said, Cal Ripken has nothing to worry about.
That's right. That's right. The way the game has changed really frustrates me. I don't like the game that we have now. I mean, it's baseball, I understand. But I don't like the changes in the game. I don't like the mystery man on second base and extra innings. I hate that, as a matter of fact. I'm not thrilled with the designated hitter for all teams. These are just changes to the game that I grew up loving, and I grew up understanding. And now, for example, they've shortened the distance between the bases. Well, then you're going to get a lot more stolen bases. Well, what does Ricky Henderson think about that?
It skews the record books. Absolutely
they can only
skews the
throw
record
over
books.
twice. Pitchers can only throw over twice.
Yeah, and can't even do that. It's an automatic.
Somebody asked me a while back who led the leagues in ghost runs last year. I said two things. I said I don't know and I don't care.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, I basically shut it off in extra innings. I think it's disgraceful.
I've watched more this season than I did in the last 3 years put combined because the pace is better. But I can't. I'm at the point where I can't watch full games anymore.
Oh, I'm with you, Alan. I'm with you. I used to watch games every night. I can't do it anymore. I pop in to see what the score is. That's what I care about. I DVR quick pitch from the MLB Network every night. Mm-hmm. Every night I watch it in the morning. I fast forward the commercials. They cover every game. And I follow on the ESPN app. And if I hear, some player does something I never heard of, I'll go into the box, go click on the name to find out who he is. Well, there are a lot of players you never heard of.
Of course.
I know.
And I tell you, I have the theory of doom. If they bring in two more teams to make it 32. And
they will. They will. You know what I think they're going to do?
They'll have eight 14 divisions like the NFL.
Exactly.
And they'll have 16 teams in the playoffs.
They love it.
It cheapens the World Series. It cheapens the World Series.
Yeah, of course.
And how about the tradition of National League against American League?
Well,
that's
I'll tell you something else. If they stay at 30, all this everybody playing everybody nonsense, to me, is a gimmick to destroy the identity of the leagues. And then they'll still call America the National, but it'll be like the NBA, Eastern. They'll mix up the leagues. They'll realign geographically. The Yankees and Mets will be in the same division with Toronto, Philly, and Boston. I can go through the whole setup right now, what it's going to look like. They don't care about tradition. They don't care about anything. Yeah,
it wouldn't be a bad thing to do something about the American League Central. That's an awful division.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, but But the thing is also, and the Yankee fans also are getting shafted by the ownership because they have games on Prime and Apple Plus.
That's right.
I get Prime because I'm an Amazon Prime member because I do a tremendous amount of business with them. But I can't watch a game on a full game on my on the iPad.
I know. It's impossible.
It's impossible. However, people don't have access to any of this stuff.
They don't watch. They don't see.
They don't see, no.
Listen to Michael Kay on the radio.
Buggy, you know what else bugs me? They are not taking care of future fans, the kids. They are not giving them access to day games, and it really is sad because the kids are not going to build memories to take into their adulthood to keep the game alive. And whoever is in charge of keeping the game alive for future generations is screwing up.
See, here's an example. Here's an example for you. The National Football League, which is unfortunately number one in the world, the National Football League, they play their games on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Now, I understand they play Thursday night and they play Monday night, but the majority of the games are on Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, all the games are over, and the kids can go do their homework or whatever. They have access to the games that baseball denies them because they play all the games at night.
Right. And that's very sad because what is the future without what Casey would have said, the youth of America?
Yeah.
Wasn't that his expression? Al, I've been threatening to do this with you for a long time. Would you give me a rundown of the Pirates as they stand and hopes for the future? Who's coming up?
Pirates have some good young players. The big problem is the starting pitching. Is not good. I'm in a Pirate chat group, which is a bunch of Pirate fans. Most of them are in Pittsburgh, and I think I'm the only New Yorker in it. And every year they ask for the prediction before the season. Every year I put down 63 and 99, which means they won't lose 100, which they've done the last 2 years, and I think they did it in 2019 also. And they were terrible during the strike-shortened year in 2020. But
I noticed today. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alan. Finish.
Yeah, and they have some very good young talent. They do play a player named Jack Sawinski, who has 21 home runs, but is in Joey Gallo territory as far as striking out. And the future, it depends. And the owner is not exactly doesn't exactly spend money. So this right now they have 56 wins.
Well, we started this conversation a while back about the Yankees, and I was looking at the standings today. They have 38 games left in the season, not counting tonight, including tonight. 38 games. If they win every one of those games, go 38-0, they will win 98 games, which is one less than they won last year. So what does that say about the Yankees? I don't think so.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't either.
The Yankees West with San Diego is another. I think they're the third biggest payroll. They're terrible also.
So what does that tell us? Do you spend money? You got to be careful what you spend it on.
You have to know what you're doing. Like the Braves, the Dodgers, and the Astros. You have to know what the heck you're doing.
And the Braves have these teams don't. All these young players, terrific young players. They're all locked up long term.
The Braves do that. They're probably the best run organization in the major leagues.
Yep, I think you're right.
And it's a light year between them and a team like the Yankees.
Yeah.
I don't think Cashman is capable of changing, and Hal Steinbrenner, his whole reason for existing is to not be like George.
I don't go to games anymore. It's too much for me.
Yeah, it's too much for everybody I know, except I have one friend that goes to every other Yankee game. He's playing.
Does he drive? Does he drive?
Yeah, he drives. He gets there 5 hours early for night games, so he can
and
park
where does
on
he
the
park?
street.
He park in the parking lot?
He parks on the street. No,
he's lucky
lot.
because $40 to park in Yankee Stadium parking lot. $40.
That's all because
shit.
I went to a couple of games the first year this one was open in 2009. It was $35 then.
Mm.
And the concessions are a fortune. He told me it's $5.50 for a bottle of water.
Whoa.
And
if it's cold, it's an extra $1, right?
Yeah. And the seats, what we used to pay $1.30 for, $1.50 in the upper deck, he pays $27.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And there's no ticket stubs anymore. I
Wow.
saved ticket stubs from for a lot of the years I went, and there's no physical ticket stubs.
Well, everything's on the phone, on the telephone, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a different world.
Well, I know, yeah. And the last game I went to, well, I have a few physical problems which don't really let me walk very much. But the last game I went to was in 2011. I told people that I wouldn't go even if I was fully healthy. I wouldn't go anymore because it's not worth the aggravation. And the only game I regret missing, because I was in California for 2011 for the Sabre National, was the game where Jeter got his 3,000th hit. I've seen a perfect game with Cone. I saw a 300th win with Seaver. I saw an unassisted triple play. I saw almost everything you could possibly see going to so many games from the 70s.
Did you ever catch a foul ball?
No.
Did you ever catch a foul ball?
In Florida. Because when they had the convention in 2000 in West Palm Beach, we went to a Florida State League game, and that's where I got a foul ball.
There you go.
Hey,
right.
guys, I promise you consistency in producing. 2 weeks from today, we may be joined by David Hubler and or George Case. Bring back the original Mavens, but we can make do whatever. Would you like me to get Jim? One thing, Hal. Would you like me to get Joseph Dorenson, your old colleague from LIU, as a guest?
Sure, love Joe Dorenson. Terrific guy.
Good.
Hal, do you ever listen to the ones that I do with David Nemec?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you ever listen to the podcast I do with David Nemec?
No, I've not.
Yeah, you might find some of them pretty interesting.
Uh-huh. I know David is a historian, pretty good historian.
Yeah, he's going through some health problems. We generally do one every other Friday, and I let him dictate because I called him the other day about the storm they had out in California.
Yeah.
And he said that it didn't hit where he lives that badly, but he did feel the earthquake.
Well, I want to point out to you guys, that right now there's a tropical storm named Harold, and I'm very proud of that.
kicking up some dirt, no matter how old you get, Harold will always be kicking up dirt.
Yeah, there you go. See?
And disturbing. Well, there's another one named Hillary, and
right.
so you'd rather be a Harold than a Hillary. Let's
absolutely, any day.
All right, Heshy and Dove, loved having you this week. 2 weeks from today, we'll get it done.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Hal Bock, Alan Blumkin, and me, the weak link, Ralph Tycho. Talk soon. Adios. and happy trails.
Oh, that's Roy Rogers. That's 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, aren't we all 1,000 years ago? Hey, you remember Nellie Bell, right?
Yeah.
You still got it. Be well, guys.
Yeah, we've been.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.